Warm weather knitting can be kind of tricky. I'm always on the hunt for summer knitting inspiration. It's kind of hard to get the yarn and pattern combo right, especially with plant fibers. I think we've all had our own mixed experiences knitting with plant fibers, but it is kind of what you have to use if you want something that is suitable for the warmer weather. I know there are a lot of wool and plant fiber blends out there, and I would like to make a video exploring those options, but for this video I am just going to be sticking to all of my summer knits that I knit from plant fibers, and a couple of tees that I did knit out of wool, so we will talk about those. But I feel like I finally built up a collection of summer knits so I can actually talk about a variety. I have mostly tees. I just have one tank. That is something that I would definitely like to change. I would like to knit some more tanks, so that will be upcoming, but for now I just have my stack that you can barely see, but here's my stack that I'll be going through. And at the end, I will also speed run through some of my older tees that I really don't wear, but I can still talk about them. I'll start with one of my most recent tops. I knit this last summer. This is the Rib Lace Raglan by James & Watts, and as the name suggests, it is a fully lace raglan style tee. I knit this out of Juniper Moon Farm Summer Solstice in the colorway Midnight Sun, which is just a black, but it is a gorgeous tweed yarn, which I think is really fun to have a plant fiber with tweed in it. I don't see that very often. This is definitely like my cutest top. Like, I put this on and I feel cute. I like to wear it with like a bralette under it, or if I need to be a little bit more covered up, I can just wear a camisole or a t-shirt underneath it. It is cropped. It's got a little bit of positive ease. I knit mine with 5 inches of ease, and I wish that I would have knit it a little bit bigger. I did substitute the yarn, so this is actually a sport weight yarn and the pattern calls for a fingering weight yarn, so I was already playing with the gauge and changing the sizing up a little bit, and I wish that I would have just gone up one size. I knit the size medium, which like I said gave me about 5 inches of positive ease, and it definitely fits me well. I think I was just picturing something a little bit more oversized, but you can see that like there is positive ease here and it does fit me. One thing with the ease though is that this raglan depth is quite deep, so I would just be aware of that if you're knitting it. It's kind of hard to see because the yarn is black, but here is the raglan depth, especially compared to the body length, and I did add some length. I added 2¼ inches to the body. For my size, I think the body length is only like 5½ inches, but the body length does change depending on the size that you knit, so just kind of be aware of that when you're choosing your yardage. I used up 2 full skeins and I used every bit of yarn, so I probably would have added maybe like a ½ inch more length if I had the yarn, but I do think it's very cute cropped. I also didn't add any length to the sleeves. So for the sleeves, I just knit 1 round and then I bound off, and then same for the bottom hem. And then for the neckline, I did an I-cord bind off. I played around a little bit with my bind offs. Sometimes that can be tricky to get right with a plant fiber because it doesn't really block out very well, and it definitely shows any like tension issues that you might have. So sometimes bind offs can be difficult, but I do really like the way that this looked with just a single knit round and then binding off. I think in the pattern that knit round is not there. I'm pretty sure it just tells you to bind off with the yarn overs still on your needles, and I just found that that looked like you could see the yarn overs in the bind off. It looked a little too sloppy, so I just knit 1 round and that worked great for me. The knitting experience on this was really fun. I think for maybe the first little bit as I established the pattern, I really had to like reference the pattern and think about it, and then as soon as I got it, I was good. I didn't need to look at the pattern at all, and everything made sense with the raglan increases. I didn't have to like reference the pattern. I could just do it by looking at it and just tracking my increases. So this really was a very simple, enjoyable knit for me, and I am thinking about making another one. There's something about this style of lace where it's just open enough that you can see underneath, but it's not too open that it looks like you're just wearing like a swimsuit cover up or something. Like it's clearly a garment. So I really like this one, and the pattern is updated with short row shaping, so you can see that here. I did still add a little tag on the back. This is just some cotton yarn that I wove through a few stitches to create a little tag, because maybe because it's black, I was having trouble finding the front and the back, but the back definitely is taller than the front, so it fits well. As far as the yarn, I mean, I would buy this again. I don't really like summer yarns that are thicker than a sport weight, and this is a sport weight, so this is like just lightweight enough for me to like it. It is 48% linen, 28% cotton, and then the other 28% is a mix of viscose and polyester. I do think the viscose helps make this just feel a little bit nicer, which is kind of unfortunate because I would love to just use like all plant fibers. I guess viscose, it's a semi-synthetic, so it's not like plastic, although there is a little bit of polyester in this as well. But I do like it. I like the way it feels. It's not scratchy. It's not especially soft, but it does have a really good drape to it. You can kind of see that it's got some weight, but it's not like overly heavy. One thing I did find is several inconsistencies in the yarn. There were parts where it was really thick and thin, and if I was just knitting stockinette, you would definitely be able to see that texture. I think this lace kind of hides it fairly well, but just be aware of that. If you want a perfectly smooth yarn, this is not it, but because it's tweed, it already has some texture in it, so I didn't mind it too much, and I would definitely purchase this yarn again. Moving on to another James & Watts pattern, and this is not the last of his patterns that you'll see. This is the Pinta Pillar Pullover, and this is maybe my most fun top. I knit this out of Lang Yarn's Linello in the color Roses, and the yarn definitely did the work for me here. I just knit the panels as the yarn came off the skein. Actually, I do remember now, I just made sure that I was starting on a different color so that the colors weren't like lined up across the pillars. But that's all I did. This is a pattern that you could use scraps for, or you could use a color changing yarn. It's really up to you. This yarn is listed as a worsted weight, but I found it to be way closer to a fingering weight. This pattern calls for a sport weight, and I actually had a smaller gauge than the pattern using this yarn. So I knit the size large to fit as a small. And I actually have a skein of it in a different colorway. This is 40% linen, 32% cotton, and 28% viscose. And this yarn is definitely thick and thin. Like that is a primary characteristic of this yarn. You can definitely see it in my stockinette here. So it does not look smooth. It's got a lot of texture in it. And maybe that's why they have it categorized as a worsted weight, because there might be parts of this that get closer to a worsted weight and parts that are a fingering weight, but I would say this is mostly closer to a fingering weight, maybe a sport weight. I also shortened it by about 3¼ inches. This is kind of full length for me. It might look a little bit cropped, but I just have a short torso. And that's very easy to do in the pattern because you are just starting out with a panel, and when you get that panel started, you can just knit it to whatever length you want, and then you'll kind of just follow your own length with how many stitches you want to pick up. You just make a note of that and then make sure you pick up that many stitches for each panel. This one was a really fun one to knit. I think if you are kind of struggling with your knitting a bit, sometimes that happens to me, in the warmer months where I'm just not as motivated to work on stuff, I would definitely try this one out because you knit it mostly in panels. So it's definitely something different to try. And everything about this pattern is very well written. It was just a pleasure to knit. And I especially love this colorway. This is one of those tops where when I wear it out, I know I'm gonna get asked if I made it, at least if I'm with people who know that I knit. And I do have a video dedicated to making this if you want to know more or just watch the process of making it. I also have a video of me, I think, finishing the rib lace raglan. I will link all of the videos I have on these projects below. Okay, next is another t-shirt, and this is the Sunshine Tee by Andrew Egon. I knit this in the summer of 2024, shortly after she released this pattern, and this is just a perfect tee. It's not too tight, it's not too loose, it's got a little bit of a crop, which of course you could adjust. It's knit at a fingering weight, so it's very lightweight. It's very easy to wear in the summer. It has these set-in sleeves that you work seamlessly. It also includes bust starts, which I did, and you can kind of see them there. I will say the bust starts are definitely more visible in this linen cotton yarn. I think it's worth it. I don't necessarily mind seeing bust starts, especially with a well-fitted tee. And there is an option to just exclude the bust starts altogether. But I think she does have 2 different sizes of bust starts, which is awesome. The other detail of this pattern are the folded hems on the sleeves, the bottom hem, and the neckline. And the neckline also has this nice detail. There's a close-up and it just looks really nice and neat in this yarn, and there's nothing additional that you have to do. You just bind off and sew it down. But the pattern does include, I think, photos of how to do that, or a video, or maybe both. It's very well documented what you're supposed to do, so I found that very easy to figure out. The hems also feature a decrease round that helps with flaring out. So you can kind of see here, it just cinches in ever so slightly. It's not very noticeable, but it keeps the hem from flaring, which I think is really smart, especially again with plant fibers where there's very little to no elasticity. So you can definitely get some flaring on your folded hems if you don't do that. Also, I just wanted to show, this is the back of the top, but you can see how much more the front comes down, and that's because of the bust starts. This really is just the perfect t-shirt. I would like to make another one of these because all of the details are just so well thought out and designed, and there's just so much information in the pattern on the different modifications you can make if you want to make it longer or keep it cropped. I knit mine out of Sadness Garn 10 Lena, which is the fingering weight version, and this is in the colorway Sunny Lime. It's one of my favorite bright lime greens. And I did knit this on 2.25 and 2.75 millimeter needles, so the gauge is pretty small, and it did take a while, but definitely worth it in my opinion. This yarn is 53% cotton, 33% viscose, and 14% linen, so it is primarily cotton with only a little bit of linen in it. It's definitely soft, it's very lightweight. Out of all of my summer knits, if I needed to wear one in the heat of summer, we're talking like over 100 degrees Fahrenheit in the sun, this is the one that I would choose to wear. Even my rib lace raglan, even though it has the holes and it does let air through, it's just a little heavy, whereas this one is lightweight enough that I think air can kind of get through it. Now, do I wear it in that exact weather? Not usually. Maybe I would if I was going to like a yarn festival or somewhere that I wanted to wear a hand knit, but if I was trying to keep cool, you know, I probably wouldn't go for a hand knit, but I'm okay with that. I don't feel the need to wear my hand knits when it's that hot, and I do find I can get enough wear out of them in the spring and as we transition into summer and as we transition into fall. So yeah, this one is definitely my lightest weight top. This next one is a fun one because it is a themed shirt that I made, and I have an entire video on this. I decided to reread the Hunger Games trilogy and watch all the movies while I knit this shirt. I don't have the box set with me in here right now, but these are all of the colors of the 3 books in the trilogy. This was a really fun project, and I know there were several people who wanted me to do something like this again. Maybe I will. It took a lot of time, even though it was really fun. And this is something that I, probably wouldn't wear as often as if I had just chosen the colors on my own. Here's a full look at it. I do think these colors look nice together. They're just like, they're not my colors, but they're Hunger Games colors. And I do love the Hunger Games. So this pattern is the Arrow sweater by Petite Knit, and I just knit it without sleeves. It is a fingering weight striped sweater, and I decided to use this pattern for this t-shirt because 1, I already had it because this is the second Arrow that I've made, and 2, it just works really well with stripes. Let me show you, the shoulders are these like little saddle shoulders, and it is this like contiguous sleeve, so there's nothing that breaks up the stripes while you're knitting the yoke. Oh, I just checked, the Arrow sweater is actually a DK weight pattern, and I converted the pattern to a fingering weight, so I forgot I did that. This yarn is a mix of Cascade cotton socks, which is I think 89% cotton and 11% nylon or polyamide or something like that. And I also used Sandnes Garn Tan Lena. They're both categorized as a fingering weight yarn, but the cotton socks is definitely thicker. And so I ended up knitting an additional stripe when I was using the Tan Lena, just to try to get all of the stripes to look the same width. I don't think I would go out of my way to use the cotton socks for a garment again. I don't dislike it, it's just primarily cotton and it can be pretty heavy. So it worked very well for this because I needed these exact colors, and that was like what was gonna sell in this project. But this is a little bit of a heavier garment for that reason, so I typically stay away from mostly cotton yarns, as in yarn that is mostly cotton, because it just tends to be quite heavy. Oh, and then one modification I made to the pattern is I did folded hems everywhere. So the bottom hem, the neckline, of course, and the sleeves. And I just used that same technique from the Sunshine Tee to do a round of decreases before you start the hem. I really like that technique. I'll probably use it for every folded hem that I knit out of plant fibers from here on out. Okay, moving right along, this is one of the tops that I knit out of a wool yarn because I totally knit this just because I found this yarn. So this is the Look at My Holes by James and Watts. It's a really fun pattern. I would like to make this one again in a summer yarn, but I knit this out of Trilogy Yarns Plush and Trilogy Yarns Sportacular, and I striped them. So one of these yarns is actually a fluorescent yarn. It is the one that is variegated, so it's like different color greens and gray, and then it has fluorescent speckles. And then the other one is just a lime green, and I just striped the two. I don't really feel like you can tell that they're striped. I wasn't trying to go for a striped effect, but I just wanted to use both of those skeins. I just grabbed my black light so you can see how fluorescent this is. It's very, very fun. So I knit this for a music festival that I was going to a couple of years ago, and now every time I'm on a dance floor where there's fluorescent lighting, I try to wear this because it's just really fun. It gets a lot of attention, which is not great because I'm not good at dancing, but it is just a really fun piece to wear. It's very cropped. It is another raglan, and I do tend to wear this with just like a bra under it, some sort of bralette or something that I want to like show. This one's definitely like got a lot of big holes so you can see through it. But yes, this one was really fun. I do have maybe a couple videos on this one. This was back when I was mostly just doing podcast style videos, so I'm really just am talking about it. But I did make a pretty bad mistake with this, and because I was on a deadline, I kind of fixed it in like a makeshift way. So if you want to hear more about that, I'll link that video. This is my only tank. This is the Emma top by Suzanne Mueller. I knit this out of Lion Brand 24/7 cotton DK, which I think is a little bit of a controversial yarn, just because I think a lot of people have tried it and not liked it, and I am in that camp. It's 100% cotton, so just on that alone, I don't like it. But it is just a very, very heavy yarn. I just weighed this because I really wanted to know. This is over 300 grams, and this is like a fairly cropped tank top. So it is just like wearing a weighted blanket almost. For that reason, I don't think I have ever worn this. It's probably the only garment that I've made that I've truly never worn. I wore it to take photos and that was it. Maybe I'll wear it in like a video or something now that I've pulled it back out, because I do really like this pattern. Maybe if I were going to knit a brioche tank top, I would choose something in a fingering weight, not a DK. But like, I like the pattern. There's nothing wrong with it. I think it's cute. It's got this little hem detail. I think all of the details are really nice. I think it looks really good. It just doesn't feel good. So yeah, this one is definitely a flop, despite the fact that I like the color and I like the pattern. It's just a 100% cotton DK yarn is not gonna be it. Maybe I should wear this over, like turn it into a vest and like wear this over a long sleeve shirt in the winter, because I do think this would keep me warm. Okay, and my last like more recent knit, here's another tee that I knit out of wool. This is a superwash fingering wool from Hue Loco. It's hand dyed. And this is the Ripple crop top by Jessie Maid. Very popular pattern. It's really cute. I made mine very cropped because I was only working with 2 skeins, and I micro striped them. So you can see I was trying to go for a bit of a variegated effect by using these 2 skeins. They were very similar in color, but they weren't the same colorway. And I really wanted to make it work for this top. So that's how I did it. And then I used another skein, this like magenta, just on the edges of the sleeves and the hem, which I think is really cute. I really have been thinking about making another one of these because when I finished it, I did wear it a decent amount, but it is superwash wool, so it is not suitable for the summer. I would say this is a spring garment or like a late fall piece. And also I don't wear it as much now because it's pretty small. It's very cropped, and it fit me better like 4 years ago than it does now. So I really have been thinking about making another one of these because it's just a basic style that I think is just so easy to wear. I like the V-neck, and the rib is fun to knit. I mean, if you like knitting rib, it's a 3x3 rib, so it's just a little bit more interesting than knitting a ton of stockinette. The pattern is very simple. It's just a drop shoulder sleeve, and there is a high-low hem written into the pattern, and I just didn't do that. The one thing with this pattern that I would change if I knit this again is right here at the V-neck where you split. The stitch in the middle gets stretched out because there's nothing that you do with that. You don't work an edging, you don't do anything special with this stitch, you just start working in opposite directions. So that stitch in the middle gets pulled, and I don't know, I don't love the look of that. I would maybe try to figure out something to make that look better. But otherwise, I really like this one, and if I wasn't trying to use up yarn that I had in my stash to make this, I would have chosen a summer yarn. But it was kind of a test because I do see a lot of people wearing wool t-shirts, and I've always wondered like maybe I could make that work for myself. And I think the answer is not during summer, but during the transitional seasons, I can. I have a few more t-shirts that I've knit like pre-2022 that I'll just speed through. This one is actually not a pattern. This is one that I came up with because I really liked this stitch pattern. And I wanted a V-neck t-shirt. I think I was inspired by the ripple crop that I had finished like maybe a few months before. I remember the main thing that I wanted out of this tee was this set-in sleeve, which I knit flat and seamed in, your classic set-in sleeve. And then I also wanted this detail. This is similar to the Emma top, where it's just split at the bottom and there are some increases there to kind of shape that. Yeah, this is just a pretty cute top. It is knit out of Knit Picks Lindy chain, which is mostly flax. It's 70% flax and 30% cotton. So it is like fairly rough to the touch. It's also pretty heavy. I probably wouldn't repurchase this yarn. It is a fingering weight, but it kind of doesn't feel like a fingering weight. It feels heavier than that. I remember I bought this for a pattern that I was going to knit and it just didn't work out. So I knit this instead, and I did wear it a few times when I finished it. Now it's a little too small on me, and I'm just not a fan of this color, so I don't wear it anymore. This next one is another one of my designs. As in I came up with the design, but I didn't write a pattern or anything from it. And this is actually a cardigan, but it is cropped and it has 3/4 length sleeves. And I made it as something that I would wear over like a spaghetti strap top in the summer if I'm like in a restaurant or, you know, on a patio or something where it's a little bit cooler. I really liked this stitch pattern that I found in a book. And so I wanted to incorporate that into a cardigan, and I did this like twisted rib front with this like little mini collar that I sewed down around the back. Again, I did set-in sleeves, but this one I did the contiguous sleeve where you pick up the stitches and you knit short rows. And I knit this out of a yarn that I would try again. This is the Cloud9 Fibers Primo. It is a sport weight yarn. It's 80% cotton, 10% cashmere, and 10% silk. So it feels really nice. It also feels kind of cool to the touch, which not all cotton fibers do. I wonder if it's the silk maybe. The one thing is that it's a little heavy just because it is a sport weight. So it's not quite as lightweight as a fingering weight, but it's definitely not as heavy as some of my other garments. So I would maybe use this yarn again to knit something that is like a transitional piece, not like a full summer garment. But I just wanted to mention that because that yarn is still available and I feel like I don't hear too many people talking about it. These last two are just some throwbacks that I thought it would be fun to include. This is the As If tee by Shay Johnson. I knit this in 2019 when this really blew up. And it is a very, very cute design with like the mohair creating this mesh look. It was very cute. It was also very like unique and innovative when it came out. However, it is knit out of an Aran weight wool. This is a Knit Picks wool. And I think the mohair is Knit Picks too. And obviously the mohair like just holds the heat in. So this is totally not practical, but I did wear it a few times when I finished it. I liked to wear it in the like late fall, early winter with like a mini skirt and tights. And it was like just warm enough still that I could have bare arms and I would be fine. But yeah, there's no way that I would be wearing this in the summer at all. Okay, last one just for fun. This is the Tanya by Caitlin Hunter, another one that really just took the knitting world by storm. It's just a basic drop shoulder, although look at how tiny these sleeves are. So funny. But the main feature is this lace hem. This is lace from the Japanese Knitting Stitch Bible, and I feel like a lot of designers were kind of discovering that book and featuring a lot of lace from it. So this one, yeah, this is just a throwback. I knit this out of Manos del Uruguay. This was my first time using hand-dyed yarn, and I think this was the first garment that I ever made. I did have some trouble with this pattern. I remember I didn't buy enough yarn, and also I didn't realize that this yarn was superwash, and it totally stretched out. It was not this long when I knit it, so I ended up throwing it in the dryer and trying to shrink it, but that did kind of ruin the effect of the lace a little bit. But I didn't let that stop me. I did wear this a lot. I wore it on my college campus. I wore it to some like nicer events. I was definitely proud of it. All right, well, those are all of my summer garments. I do want to make some more this summer. I'm already working on one. And I will be sharing my summer plans soon, which will include some more tank tops, or at least one. I probably won't knit more than one this summer, but I have some ideas. Like I said at the start, I'm always interested in hearing about other people's summer knits that they find successful, that they can wear through the warm weather, and yarns that you have tried and really like, or maybe yarns that you really are gonna stay away from. Please let me know all of your thoughts, and I'll see you again in another video soon. Bye!